A woman accused me of cheating on my husband and asked for my ID because she's the wife of a high-rank official. Now, she'd lost a potential job and had their social media exposed. I've lived in Japan for over 2 years with my husband. He was born here, and we decided to move to his hometown. I describe us as an AMWF couple, Asian man, white female. For those who don't know, it's not so common in Western countries, and it can feel like we are some rare shiny Pokemon as AMWF in rural Japan, with lots of staring, occasional secret pictures, or even small chats if an old lady is brave enough to approach us. It can feel uncomfortable eating at a restaurant because kids will turn around in their seats and stare at us the whole time with an open fish mouth. Coincidentally, there's a small U.S. military base located in this city. The closer you are downtown, the more American families you see. I'm constantly mistaken for being military by Americans and Japanese, which is understandable. Besides myself, I only know 5 other interracial marriages here. It's always locals who ask about my American husband when I'm alone, to which I respond in Japanese, "My husband is Japanese, and I live here," or something along those lines. Americans never ask about my marriage as they assume my spouse is American. It was a beautiful, warm day for the first time in months, but we decided to battle for a spot and walk around the shops. The season for new American families to move here just finished, so I'm sure this was many people's first time to walk and shop outside leisurely. We found a parking spot and made our way to the outside shops. Of course, we are holding hands and casually talking and laughing. Wow. I hear this from an American woman about 10 feet behind us. You should know that a Japanese stereotype against Americans is that we are rude and obnoxiously loud. And this wow was loud enough for me to turn my head around at the noise. She was with 2 other moms who had 3 kids each. They were staring at me, but perhaps we accidentally had eye contact at the right time. Seriously, another little homewrecker is doing this in public? We find a table nearby at the Starbucks outside. We are enjoying our drinks when the same group of women approached us with their strollers in tow. They definitely had some sort of purpose with something to say to us. Let's call her Ona, woman in Japanese. Ona, excuse me, but you need to keep whatever you're doing in your messed up home. Doing that in public in front of families to see is disgusting and immoral. My kids don't need to see such a bad display of marriage. I'm so confused, as was my husband who can speak English. Who knew drinking coffee outside was a crime against humanity and marriage? I asked. I'm sorry. What did we do? Ona, you know exactly what you're doing. She points to my wedding ring. Me. No, I don't. Ona, good lord, does your husband know about this? Is he on a ship right now? That's so like a dependopotamus. Her friends laugh. In case you don't speak military, a dependopotamus is slang for a military wife who stays at home all day, doesn't clean, uses their spouse as an ATM, and looks like Jabba the Hutt. It dawns on me, she thinks I'm a military spouse and I'm cheating on my American husband. I started laughing because she's suggesting I was cheating on my husband, with my husband. Me, this is my spouse. I'm actually not part of the military community and have a Japanese visa. Ona looks at my significant other up and down. The 2 women behind her apologized, but the Ona didn't believe it. Ona, no one would voluntarily want to live in this little town. Nice lie, but you're not representing the military community. You make all of us wives look like whores. Who is your husband and what's his rank? Also, I need your dependent ID. My husband is a high rank, so he'll make sure your husband is aware of your infidelity. She pulls out her phone to probably type my response. I'm offended since this is a nice place to live and open to foreigners. Me, look, my husband's name is Ray, and he's sitting here. I'm not going to show you my military ID since I don't have one, and you're not the police. As proof, you can see our wedding bands match, and here's a picture. On our wedding day, I showed her my phone screen, which showed us in traditional Japanese clothes. Her eyes became huge at the picture. Her 2 friends and their spawn have already started walking away. Ona, why are you in a relationship with him? You should be in a normal relationship and start having a family with American kids. She says some other statements that I'd consider racist against the Asian race. It's so ironic because we are in Japan, and she's fussing about me being married to a Japanese man. My husband has been quiet throughout the exchange and tells me we should go. I agreed and stood up. Me, stop. The things you are saying are extremely offensive. I was part of the military community myself some years ago, and what you're doing is against spousal conduct. She smirked. Go ahead and tell people what I did, then. My high-ranking husband is an E7, and everything will be swept under the rug no matter what happens. You can't touch me. So that's what I did. Note this is a small military community. Someone does something minor and it's talked about between wives like chickens. Later that day, I ran into my friend who works on the base. She's well known in the community as one of the main event coordinators. I didn't miss this chance to comply with Ona's demand and explain the exchange to my friend and how it made my husband extremely uncomfortable with her remarks. She asked me if this person looked like so-and-so, to which I said yes. My friend rolls her eyes. Friend, she just arrived a couple of months ago and is already causing problems with rumors and drama. Looks like we have a racist, too. I'll make sure what she said is passed on. It's been half a year, and I haven't heard anything about Ona again since I distanced myself from making military friends here. I've only been in my new city for a little over 2 years and experienced more drama from military families than I have my whole high school career. That is, until now. Last week, I ran into my friend, who was preparing to return to the United States. We had a little discussion about her moving and my family planning and dropped a bombshell. Friend, do you remember Ona, who Who accused you of cheating on your non-existent military spouse and called your husband a racist name? Me, of course. I haven't heard anything from her since. Friend, well, I mentioned we were already having problems with her soon after she arrived. I told my boss that a person was bothering and threatening civilians and asking for IDs, which isn't allowed for someone with her status. My boss was extremely interested after I mentioned her name because Ona was scheduled for an interview in my department. I suggested we look at her social media accounts from her past behavior because we don't tolerate racism. It was easy to find her on Twitter and Facebook, particularly Facebook since we have many mutual friends. Her SNS was shocking. While she set her Facebook to private, her Twitter was littered with malicious tweets and retweets. This included racist slang for many nationalities, colorful language, and using her husband's military rank to bully others. She made it very clear that she wants to see her current city burned to the ground and asked, why would anyone want to learn Japanese since it sounds terrible? We printed some more extreme things she posted and still invited her to the interview. Oh, and did I mention my boss is Japanese? So she came into the interview, which I was part of. I asked 3 good things about her. She says dependent, gets things done, and is friendly. My boss just looked at her for a second before he pulled out her tweets and asked her to explain how she could friendly serve the local community if she hated it so much. Ona was floored and said someone hacked into her account despite at least 3 years of slanderous tweets. We thanked her for coming and said we can't accept an employee with this conduct. As far as I know, she's still not working because some spouses found her on Twitter not long after the interview, which was shared in all departments. No one will touch her application now. Me. So all this was discovered because I told you about her accusations? Friend, yes. Oh. And she's kind of an outcast socially right now because she cheated on her husband a couple of months ago. There you have it, folks. Because one person couldn't mind their own business, they lost a potential job and had their social media exposed. Super ironic since she became the dependopotamus and the same thing she accused me of.